Hello, everybody who's tuned in to watch us today. My name is Visharad. I'm the CEO of BrandGuard. And on our discussion today, we have two very eminent Malaysian, they're entrepreneurs, but I'd like to call them futurists. I'd like to introduce into this room Kashminder Singh, co-founder of pitchIN,
Hi, hello.
and Peter Francis Fernandez, co-founder of Sirius Support.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, guys. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. We've had conversations about this subject matter many times, and I feel it would be a fascinating conversation to bring out into a Sunday afternoon, because a lot of things, I think it's a bit of an understatement to say that things have changed a little bit since in the last couple of years. What started off for me personally, as far as my experience was reading about in Reddit in late 2019, this thing about a virus in a town in China. It sounded like the stuff of zombie movies, but it became a very sort of like real thing to me and my friends and my family and my communities in a very short time. And a lot of the narrative has been very sort of negative, but there have been spaces in which we've really kind of shown our perseverance as a human race, and I'd love to start talking about that today. So before we go on any further, I would like to throw the spotlight on our esteemed guests. If you could, starting with Cash, could you just give everybody a bit of an introduction, who you are and what you're about?
Sure, I can do that. I'll start by saying that I'm not esteemed, just a Malaysian who's trying to, run a business and get stuff done. But yes, I'm the co-founder of pitchIN, an equity crowdfunding platform. I hope we've done well enough for almost everybody who is in the session to know what pitchIN is. But if not, we're a licensed equity crowdfunding platform that helps companies to raise money for their business and enables investors. Investors will be anybody, people like you, whoever is here. You can invest in these companies, and we've done fairly, I would say, quite well. We're actually the leading equity crowdfunding platform, funded over 100 companies, raised over nearly 130 million for companies, and that's something like we like to say we're just getting started, because a lot more deals coming up this year. We also, Sam, Shafi'i and I, my co-founder, we also run WTF Accelerator, where we actually get companies to invest in companies, take companies in batches and sort of get them through a 4-month program and get them running. We've done quite a few success stories there too. And that's something, while we think are quite busy with pitching right now, we're still looking at what else we can do in the area of startup acceleration. So that's me.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Kashminder. Peter, how about a quick intro?
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity to be. Great to meet you, V and Kashminder. So my name's Peter. Neither esteemed nor very old, but glad to be here. Got about quite a few years of experience in customer experience and support, and co-founded Sirius Support a few years ago, which is a 100% remote global organization focused on enabling remote work through technologies and our unique methodology all around the world.
Awesome. That's great. Well, thanks again, guys. First question, and let's start the ball rolling with an honest answer. For 2020 and the pandemic, did it positively or negatively affect your organizations?
Yeah. Where will start? I can answer.
Okay, begin. Cash.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so as you said, we all went through I guess the same kind of feelings and emotions. I remember in somewhere in late December, early January, I was actually in India on a family trip, having a good time, and then we started to see stories of people falling sick and viruses and all that. And while we did quite really at that time realize that the world was changed very drastically, I sort of got a feeling that something. This was not an ordinary thing happening. So got back to the country, and then pitching as usual. We always have this this thing where the year end is always just before the year end, we always have a lot of companies that sort of rush to get funded and all that. Then there's a bit of a lull, and then the Malaysian style, we get started only in Chinese New Year kind of thing, right? So there was a bit of a lull. Came back, we started planning. We had our annual report day and all that. But then every day the news narrative was getting filled with the virus and all that. And just like everybody else, Sam and I at pitchIN and our team thought, oh, okay, so this is serious stuff, right? We saw lockdowns in China starting and all that, and I think the pitchIN annual report was the very last event, one of the last events to be held in KL, right? So we almost may have started after. Luckily it didn't, but late February we had an event, and a few days later, just about early March, I can't remember, but just 2 weeks later or so, lockdown started. And at that time, we thought, okay, so this is, it may impact us negatively. But to our, I wouldn't say surprise, but rather it turned out that we were wrong. And things, as far as pitchIN is concerned, we are positively affected, right? In the sense that I guess it was mainly because people had a lot of time, and they knew that the world was changing, and they said, okay, let's look at what else can be the next success stories and all that. And pitchIN, our deals, in fact, last year was a record year for us. We achieved our full year's target way before September, went smashed past all our targets, funds raised, number of companies, we broke a record, policy street raised like 5 over million, largest ever, entirely during the MCO. Right, and company after company started to get funded. So yes, we were positively impacted by this stuff. We do feel for the other many other companies that are suffering, but pitchIN to a great extent, you can say we were able to exit 2020 on a much more positive note.
That's excellent. Thanks for sharing that. I'm so happy for you guys. Peter, how about now? Time to get serious, as Akash said in his last answer. So, talk to us about 2020. How?
It's been an amazing year. I think in terms of opportunities and how we've been to expand our reach. So, obviously, it's not been amazing in terms of health and in terms of global pandemic, but in terms of the startup economy and the ability to approach organizations. As a fully remote organization, what we focus on is remote work, right? And we started actually just before the pandemic. The difficulty with that is many organizations just didn't believe in power of remote work and the benefits that can bring in many aspects. However, the pandemic changed all of that because everyone was forced to a remote or work from home model in suboptimal conditions. And so we were able to then get better opportunities to speak with these organizations about helping them gain the ability to get great at remote work. So it's been a good year from that perspective. I think for any startup in the space, 2020 is a year of opportunity, a year of learning as well, because I don't think things are ever going to go back to the way they were. There's just too much change and too much disruption, which has resulted as a result of the pandemic, which has affected us both negatively and positively. And it's now the chance for us to learn from that, develop those lessons, and then use them as.
That's excellent that it's worked so well for you guys so far. There are themes of change and disruption in both your answers. And as the saying goes, there's always a silver lining, right? So, what are the opportunities out there right now that have presented themselves for the global entrepreneur, the entrepreneur of today?
Okay,
I tell you what, let's shake it up a bit. Seeing that you
Yeah.
answered the last question first, Cash, I'll throw this to Peter.
Yes.
So it's a very good question. I think anything to do with optimizing work, optimizing the way companies work across various fields, whether it's from manufacturing to services to fintech, edtech, etc., even food delivery, for example, right? There's at least a couple of new startups I know trying to challenge the status quo. And the opportunities are various. There's people share information, collaborating and working in virtual world and virtual communities, which have connected across different aspects of society and geographies, actually. And that's allowed space for entrepreneurs to look at how they help serve these segments, how they help connect with them and improve the way things are working. For example, when Craig, my co-founder, and I started Sirius Support, we knew, because we'd been working full-time remote for the last 4 years, well, 3 years at that stage, and we knew that there was an opportunity, we knew that there was potential, and we knew the benefits and powers of remote work. We had a vision, and that was to enable remote work for global organizations, right? We didn't start with the technology platform. We didn't start focusing on making money off of companies. We started with a vision, and that was to help other organizations gain the benefits of remote work and remote learning. And I think that's where it starts, with a vision, with a goal, and then executing on that and building upon it. If you start with a goal of looking at things, understanding the situation, and seeing how you can improve things, I think that's a great way to start.
Fantastic. Thanks for your thoughts, Peter. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think in terms of business opportunities and startups and entrepreneurship, it's been an amazing time to actually start business right now. Right, things have changed so much. Previously, right, if you want to start a business, you probably would have to first sit down and see, where do I open my office, right? I've got to go look for an office, and then I've got to hire people who can come to my office and stuff like that. But now you can literally start a business without physical space. You can leverage of various tools, right, and all that. Right, so the opportunities are open to anybody. You can compete, as Peter just said. If I want tomorrow, I can compete with Grab, right? So Grab is doing food delivery. I can tomorrow, and there are all kinds of ways for me to go and compete. So in terms of opportunities, there are plenty, right? So this digitalization, I'm sure that a word that would have been heard a lot at the Startup Summit by today, has opened up all kinds of opportunities, right? You want to start a business, coming back again to the example of food, if you want to start a business, previously you just have to either open a restaurant or a roadside stall, right? But now, and you know this, right? So I saw this last year, all kinds of businesses were opening up and bringing food to my condo where I'm staying, right? So we were able to order duck all the way to Charas, right? I'd never heard of the company before, but they had this amazing duck that came to us through WhatsApp. I didn't use Grab at all, right? So it was just simple tool like that, and the food was delivered to us. So
you need to share that restaurant.
Yeah. So I actually spent a lot of time last year deciding what special food can we order, right? So we're stuck in the house, right? And work needs to be done, but then we also need to eat. So why should I be eating the same food that is nearby my house, or why should we be cooking all the time? Because one thing we realized was we need to support businesses at that time, right? So we started to look around, and then you see that people were starting up all kinds of things. We were able to order seafood, right? Either live seafood, cooked seafood, ducks, whatever food was coming. So a lot of people got involved in F&B. People were saying restaurants are going to die, but I don't think so, right? So what happened was a lot of people, those who were able to adapt, they were actually seized the opportunity to build all kinds of new markets, right? And it's actually very easy to start a business today, right? Because you don't even need full-time employees, right? I can speak to people like Sirius Support, but more than that, you can actually have people who work for you 3 hours a day and they work for other people. It doesn't matter, right? Because for that 3 hours that they work for you, previously they would have to travel to the office, so that would add another 2 hours at least, right? So they would give almost a full day to you, but now they give you the 3 hours from their home, and that's almost nearly a day's job if they are good staff. So opportunities are there a lot, and I think if you look at almost any business, it is ready to be disrupted. if it has not already been disrupted, right? So you can literally look at almost any industry and say, how can I disrupt it using all these new tools that are available today? Right? So lots of opportunities, if you ask me.
Absolutely agree with that, Kash.
Yeah.
And I think from my point of view, it's been a tough time for many people, but also the opportunities which have arisen as a result of the situation around us has been tremendous. I think one thing I would say to any organization, any person trying to think of how you want to start up, what you want to do to take advantage of the opportunities, have that vision, have that goal in mind, right? And build around it. And think about from the very beginning, not making money off the bat, right? It's not about being a millionaire instantly or anything like that. It's a long, hard road to make any sort of profitability. But in your planning, have that vision, and that allows you to build into that space, right? And as you build and as you offer your product or your services, that's when basically you look at your strategies around, whether it's based around acquisition or whether it's based around growth or awareness, whatever it is, right? But that single vision that you start with allows you scope to grow. And if you don't have that vision, find one, right? In that space that you're looking at the opportunity for.
Nice. Yeah. Totally agree with that. I don't think, see, one of the challenges I see that a lot of people who were forced to enter into businesses, right? They lost their jobs, right? Or they had their pay cards and all that. Okay, so I'm going to go start a business. And I think if you start with that kind of way of thinking, then I must say that you will have great challenges to succeed in business. Right? It's better than you go look for another job, or you find a way to support other people. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, then yes, you got to start with a vision. You got to see what I think I can really contribute, not because I'm forced to start because I need to put food on the table, because that's not going to work. And I think that should not be the reason to start, because we need to put food on the table. To be honest, I don't think there were that many people who say that they cannot find another job, right? Plenty of jobs out there, right? So it's just a matter of you looking for it, right? So that should not be the reason to start a business. But if you have a vision, and I think vision, yes, everybody can have them. So those people who have that vision, then it's a very, very good time to start a business now.
Yeah. Well, that was deep. So thanks for those thoughts and the very interesting answers there. You touched on a good point just now, Kashminder. First of all, I want to check out that duck. But now someone mentioned to me that the biggest challenges he faces is what to eat for lunch. The struggle is real. So I'd also like to kind of like divert a little bit onto something, a bit of a thread that you mentioned just now. And is mostly about like this space in which a lot of businesses are appearing. Okay. And I've noticed this itself from my business, because I run a trademark registration business, as you guys know. And I've got a lot of people that are shifting into that space and understand the awareness of their brands. So maybe to all these new entrepreneurs out there, Kashminder and Peter, starting with you, Kashminder, do you have a few tips for them as to how to start their business at this current time?
Okay. Excuse me. I think the most important point to note, again, since you bring it up, things like branding have become very important. Right? You find that there are a lot of people in the same space as what you're doing. So you literally have to differentiate yourself. Branding is actually extremely important. Right? We at pitchIN, we have how many? 9 other competitors. So we need to build a brand, right? So we need to stand out from the rest. So I think branding is important. Excuse me, clear my throat first. Excuse me. And coming back again to what you need to do if you're going to start a business today. I mentioned just now, you should not, you don't need an office anymore, right? There were times previously that when people will not deal with you if you don't have an office. Now they're most happy to talk to you if you have something that they can benefit from, right? You don't To a certain extent, I think you don't even need full-time workers in the beginning, but you need committed people. Right? At pitchIN, when the MCO one started, our entire team went entirely work from home. We didn't see each other for months, but work didn't stop, and we realized that anybody who's committed, they work from anywhere. There's not an issue. Even till today at pitchIN, we have not come back to office fully. We have one person in the office every day. That's it. The rest of us actually work from anywhere. Right? So you can take advantage of that. Start a business. The other tip I want to give is that plan to use less capital. Right? Of course, our job at pitchIN is to help companies raise money, and we find a lot of people come and say that I need this huge amount of money, and I always tell them you may not need that kind of money anymore. Right? With the way digitalization is growing, people are able to use, as I said, branding and other ways. Social media, sometimes free publicity. You can. I just mentioned about you being able to use non-full-time people. You don't need an office, right? So your capital can be less. So start with less capital as much as possible. The other tip I have is that don't try to do everything in-house. Right? You don't need to actually hire everybody to do and pay them monthly salary. Say, hey, you don't work for anyone else. I think that's the wrong way to do business these days. Where you can, you collaborate. Right? We have all kinds of collaboration at pitchIN, and I see among those people who are successful. Right? For example, digital marketing. Right? If you're still small, you don't need to hire your own digital marketer. Find the right person to do it for you. Right? Same for customer support, service support, almost anything, right? So you can collaborate with people, help them to build their entrepreneurial dream, right? By collaborating with them and giving out some of your services to them, right? So I think successful businesses these days will be cooperative rather than competing, right? And the other tip that I have is think big, right? Think very, think big, because with digitalization, I can be speaking here. I don't know the people who are listening to me now. I'm assuming they're people, but there I can see that quite a big number there. But somebody could be sitting all over, across the world, right, listening to me, right, and we could start off some business collaboration, right? So markets have become bigger, right? I mentioned about the duck. Probably this company were probably selling their ducks in Cheras those days, right? Now they have, they set up a sort of a network, and you can get your this food delivered all the way over to where I live, right? So you can think very big. So what business you're doing, think bigger. So these are some of the thoughts that I have. I'm sure, Peter, you have your...
I love that last point, Cash, because as an organization, I've constantly told my team this, which is, don't constrain yourselves to what and to what we've done before, right? Craig has 20 plus years of experience in cybersecurity, IT help desk with organizations such as RSA, ClearSwift, Dell. I've got similar amount of experience with organizations such as Cycom, which is an outsourcer, Shell, Nokia, Nokia with Cycom, Shell, PayPal, IKEA, and co-founded Sirius Support. So we've got a wealth of experience with some large organizations, right? But that constrains us. I know things too well in certain ways, right? In order to take advantage of opportunities and to grow and to find something which works, right, and works well, you have to think outside of the box and free your mind, free your constraints, be willing to accept that you are wrong and that there's different ways to do things, and there's ways outside of what you know. To give you an example, right? Craig and I, Craig's in the UK, I'm in Malaysia, right? We've worked together for about 4 years plus now. We've never physically met. We started the company together and we've never met, right? Who would have thunk it, right? But it works, and it works well. We've got a good methodology, of course, and that allows us to understand each other very well and to be able to work together. And our teams all across the world. So we've had to think big. I'll give you an example. We've focused on Sirius support. Support's in the name, right? So services support. Because we're a remote organization, we do remote work tool, which allows us to manage teams remotely and people remotely. And there's been clamor from organizations for such a tool in the pandemic, of course. But more than that, we branched out into something I didn't want to do. Initially, one of my staff came to me and said, there's a space in education practice space, right, for exams. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. That's not our core, right? I'm sticking to what I knew. And he said, no, it's a great opportunity. You need to do it, right? Your remote work methodology and framework gives a great platform to build that. I said, no. I had another employee tell me, because he was doing his master's, he did an exam, a proctored exam. And it's a really interesting story because he looked away, as I do when I talk or I'm in meetings. He looked away and thought about a question for a few seconds. And the system said, okay, you're cheating. If you don't look back and stare at the screen constantly, you're going to fail automatic, right? His classmate, internet connection dropped off because they were doing some roadworks outside the house and they damaged the cable. Instant fail, 3 months to appeal. We just booked a professor in Dubai a few weeks ago. Her husband's doing his master's. Also, same situation, internet connection dropped, instant fail, right? 2 months to appeal. And he told me that, and I said, no, we're not doing an online education exam proctor. No. And then we did it. We built it, right? Because I thought about it more and they convinced me. And it might be our best selling product right now, right? The space and opportunity and the way we've gone about it has been innovative because I finally managed to break free of my constraints, right? And they came to me with ideas and thoughts, and we built it differently from everyone else, right? And I think that's key, being willing to open your mind and, like you said, Kashminder, think big. Don't be constrained by what you know, because might be constraining.
That's excellent. Great perspectives, guys. I mean, my major takeaway from your answers is the fact that everybody watching right now should be encouraged to think big and to break free from their constraints. This is not the time to stick to traditional perspectives. It's time to adapt, to evolve, right? I mean, that's kind of like what you guys are talking about.
That's always been the case, but I think it's brought more to the fore right now because that's the situation everyone is in, right?
I see.
You're competing against everyone, not just locally, but globally, right? It's leveled the playing field, but also it gives you opportunities to jump into a larger playing field by default, right? And so in order to do so, you have to not just work your ass off, pardon my French, but you also have to be open and allow yourself to free your mind, free your constraints, think big, think what could be, not about what the technology and what constrains you.
Okay, noted. That's great. And with that thought process, I'd like to divert our perspective to our audience. Thank you all, 43 of you watching us right now. We appreciate you taking your time out of your Sunday lunch schedule to talk to listen to this conversation. I'd like to divert your attention to a couple of things within this experience, and that is that we have a poll going on. I just want to gauge the sentiment of our crowd. So just choose one of the answers there, and we also have a Q&A section. Thank you to Geetan Balagan and Titkian Yap for two fantastic questions. We'll go through in the last 15 minutes of this session. Now, Kashminder and Peter, I think at this point in time we've both come to this space where we understand where we are right now and how startups and scale-ups, because everyone wants to grow, right, need what they need to focus on and how to optimize this current time, how to silver line it, so to speak. I'd like to continue on something you chaps mentioned, and that is about this whole shift remote working. Now, Kashminder, you've mentioned that within a very short time, your organization went fully remote. Peter, your organization specializes in remote work. For the benefit of our audiences and their networks, because they will share what you guys are talking about, could you please talk to us a bit more about the do's and do nots of remote work? I'll throw that question to Peter.
It's the honest truth is there's a lot to be said for common sense, right? As an organization, and you've heard, I've worked in some of the biggest companies in the world. I've seen a variety of red tape and employee handbooks thick at times, and a lot of it is around common sense. Telling people how much you can spend for lunch and dinners when you travel. shouldn't be something you have to spell out, right? You should be taken for granted that the lobster, caviar, and Dom Perignon champagne is not acceptable for for a dinner for yourself alone, right? And so we've tried to build our organizational culture around accountability and empowerment, right? I empower my people basically to make decisions which are great for the customer and good for the business as well. I train them, I teach them, I allow them to grow. We wanted people to have the chance to take control of their role, their space within the organization, to grow it and to own it. I think that was key based on everything Craig and I have learned through the years, to allow people to express themselves and to dissent in a good way, so that we take that on board and we grow stronger as a result. And so from a corporate culture point of view, I think we respect each other. We respect each other's time, and we use common sense, right? And we ask questions, open, hard, honest questions, right? And we work together. So with these 5 or 6 mini principles, we've built a good culture of accountability, empowerment, and growth. And we've allowed ourselves to be creative, for example, exam proctor, and we've allowed ourselves to be innovative in everything that we do. And I think that's a model that many other companies could learn from and grow with, which is less sometimes is more, right? Don't constrain your staff. Let them be the adults that you hire them to be. Let them use their brains. You hire them because they're good, because they're smart, because they're good workers, or they got potential. Develop the potential, let the good work shine, and put less red tape in the way.
I think, Peter, you've summed it up very well. That's exactly, from the big picture, that's exactly what companies should be doing. Because if you try, for example, to say, hey, okay, you guys are going to work from home, but I want you to log in at 9 o'clock sharp. I want to see your face in front of the screen for the next, 4 hours or whatever, 1 o'clock before you go for lunch, and then at 2 o'clock, I want to see your face again on the screen. Then I think you will miss the concept of work from home, right? And you miss this thing about empowerment and all that, right?
So, you miss the opportunity.
Exactly, right. So I think one thing I learned, and I think I'm sure I'm not alone, everybody else who've been working with people in the last 1 year have learned that by and large, your employees are pretty committed, trustworthy, and I would say empowered people, right? We had no issue at pitchIN, to get jobs done, right? And it didn't matter to me if you want to start your work at 12 at noon, right? And work till 10 o'clock at night. It doesn't matter to me, because I know what you're supposed to be doing, and you do your part. Maybe it's because we're a small organization, right? When you're small, then if you don't do your part, the next person can't do his part, right? So to a certain extent, everybody have to pull their weight. But I think it's equally possible in larger organizations, because one of the things that I always promote is that no matter how large you are, you've got to think small, and you've got to make your team still small enough to be able to work among themselves, rather than trying to work as one large organization. So based on that, definitely, if you want to get people to work in this new way, you have to trust them. You have to find ways to let them do what they want. And one of the things I've been telling people, I can't do it, right? Because I'm married, and we've got kids, and some of them are already working and all that. But I've been telling people, hey, look, if you want to do your business today, you can actually go to Langkawi, rent a house there with a good internet connection, and you have started your business, right? It sure beats walking around in Kuala Lumpur, right? And no one will know where you are if you really, So if someone wants to go and work from there, fine, get your job done, right? So there are all kinds of things that you can do these days to just get things done, if you are only willing to trust and get everybody to do work how they want to.
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head when you say trust. A lot of organizations have a lack of mutual trust due to various reasons, right? Policies, etc., in place, corporate culture, years of learning how to do things a certain way, right? And when they can't see the employees at their desks, they feel insecure. Now, I think there's ways around it. As you know, Sirius Sport has proven as a remote organization, we built differently because we've built to build for remote. But what I can tell organizations and individuals looking to build teams, looking to build in the pandemic, etc., is take advantage of the benefits that you have, which are flexibility, right? Use technology to help you in building structure and interactivity and communication within teams. There's so many tools and technologies out there which help you build things and structures and rhythms that enable your workforce better than actually you could in an office. In many ways, it's incredible, right? For example, our remote work tool allows the individual to know and have clear visibility of how much they worked, how hard they've worked, and then balance their time accordingly, right? They get balance out of that. And the question of trust is removed from the equation entirely because the employer knows how much you've worked, how hard you've worked. And there's never a question about, are you working? How much have you worked? Have you been at your desk? Right? And it's very clear. And so there are many tools and many technologies out there which enable this kind of conversation, right? Use them to grow, use them to build the right type of culture rather than wasting time and creating churn, right? The worst thing for any organization is to wrap yourself up in administrative tasks, in pandemic or not, right? Take away those things, automate where you can, use technology to help you. There's so many things out there which can, from Google Sheets, which is really powerful, to all the way up to bespoke tools. And there's just a whole range of different things that can help you with project management, communications, etc.
Fantastic insight, guys. Thanks for that. I'd like to actually merge two of my questions together with a specific sort of focus on the both of you and the spaces that you guys are in, actually. First of all, Kashminder, are investors right now still willing to back up startups in this current climate? And second of all, what kind of support is there out there for startups right now, Peter? So, Kash, if you could please answer that.
Yeah. Okay, I can speak with some authority here. So there's no guesswork involved. I think investors have shown that they're willing to back startups and this. And I think when you think about it, the answer is pretty obvious because people know, right? If you're a serious investor or you're looking to put some money onto companies, you know that in times of, they always say in times of change and turbulence, that's when opportunities arise. Right, so you don't want a situation only of a complete stability because that means the giants are entrenched. Right, that means that it's hard for somebody to break through the status quo. But when in times of turbulence, and I'll just use the example of Grab, the favorite company I like to knock all the time. Right, they were pretty entrenched. Right, so Grab was pretty entrenched in the hailing space and especially in the food delivery space. And what were they doing? They are going up to people and telling customers, I want 35% of your sale. Right? I want 35%, then I'll deliver the food for you. Right? And on the other side, customers also pay for deliveries and all that. Right? So you would have assumed when the pandemic struck, right, that Grab would have benefited a lot from this. But I beg to differ. I believe that it was the other smaller startups, and you can see them in the logistics spaces is more clearly, right? You can see the smaller logistic companies are beating the heck out of the giants, right? Because they were simply cheaper, faster, and all that. And similarly for food delivery, I cannot remember how long ago it was that a Grab or Food Panda delivered food to me. Long time ago, because almost every restaurant that I use now, I can order via WhatsApp, and they have their own delivery people. I can use the other smaller food delivery people. Because why? Because people realize that there was an opportunity, right? And how did these startups get their backing? It was because investors believed in them, right? So coming back again to our experience at pitchIN, companies like all the companies that were funded last year, they were basically disruptors. They were changing the status quo. And investors back then, Policy Street was funded entirely during the first MCO. In other words, you could not have met the founders physically, right? You couldn't have met them physically. You cannot go and look at their office, nothing. You are stuck there. There are no problem finding investors. And the same for all the other companies that raised money last year. Many of them, because investors say, and I know that there will be new champions coming out and I want to back them, right? So investors, no problem. So I believe today, if you have a business idea that you think is good, there will be investors out there to back it.
Could I just ask really quickly, Peter, how do they know it's good?
How do investors know it's good?
No, I'm asking Kashminder.
Wrong person.
No, I'm asking Kashminder. I'm asking Kashminder because you said if the idea is good, right? Yeah. So for everybody that's watching, everybody with the dream, everybody who doesn't see the brighter future with their current job and wants to, and is beginning to think, hey, I might as well be an entrepreneur. How do they know the idea is good?
I think I go back to basics, right? Ideas are a dime a dozen. Everybody had the same idea. Just come back to simple examples. Right outside the condo where I live, in the last 1 year, there have been like 20 people who started nasi lemak stalls around the area where I live. So many nasi lemak stalls. 1 year later, I would say 17 of them are gone. Only 3 have survived. And those 3 did it, and that's the main. It always boils down to the founders and their execution, right? So if you listen carefully to the founders, and you find that this guy, he is going to find a way through to succeed. Some of the people last year, or even the year before, who raised money on pitchIN, they were badly hit. I'm not saying that everybody who raised money on pitchIN celebrated, that they're going to do very well in the pandemic. Some of the companies were very badly hit, but the real winners, the survivors, were those who were able to either pivot slightly, find new ways, find new markets. So we had a business raise money on pitchIN who simply could not operate because they were physical in a way that people had to go to somewhere to use their service and no going to that place because I can't go out of my car. So people and they had to literally pause their business for 2 to 3 months. But are they dead today? No, they are not dead because the founder sat down and said, I've got a company, I've got certain resources, I've got some skills. What can I do differently? And that founder has already pivoted to a slightly related business, but something that allows them to operate. So based on that, always bet on the founders and bet on the execution. Look at how they execute.
Okay, noted. That's quite a...
Yeah. I think from my experience as well, running a company, it's exactly that. It's about being able to pivot, being able to execute and finding opportunities and working, right? And differentiating yourself. For example, we're completely bootstrapped, right? We've not used any external funding, though we've had 3 people come up to us early stage and ask us whether we want funding. We said no, we wanted control, we wanted to build something first. And we did. So we've got the services and 2 products which are selling, right? And we're planning on building a third, but which is separate. But if we hadn't pivoted when we needed to, if we hadn't been able to execute on building the products and selling them successfully, we wouldn't have been able to make it. We had to make, and in order to do so, we had to make tough choices around, because we had, you've got limited funds. You don't have an empty checkbook where you can just sign whatever you want, right? We had to choose which areas we invested in at which points, right? So in the beginning, it was very much around development, around opportunity space, around the technology, right? Developing the product, working at it, not taking a cent. Craig and I both working other jobs, trying to make this work, right? And then the next phase was we moved money into sales, right? And we said, we don't have money for sales and marketing, but we do have money for sales. Let's do that, right? We're a global organization. We've got global reach in terms of people. We find people in networks. We use those networks and we try to gain traction, right? And that's what we've done. And so we've shifted focus along each stage as we've gained revenue, as we've shifted our budgets around. That's allowed us to survive regardless, because we've been very, very specific around what we need to do at each point. And so don't try to do everything is what I would say, because you can't. unless you've got a limitless bank balance, you can't. So you need to be very strategic around what you want to do, how you want to do it, and build each part really, really well when you're focused on that, and just execute.
That leads into the actual second half of the question I asked earlier, which is like, what type of support is available for startups? And let's make it wider, SMEs out there.
Sure. So, for example, what Kashminder was saying was, don't try to do everything yourself. And the same with us. We've reached out to experts in the fields and other organizations to partner with us, for example, with PR work, etc. We don't have that expertise, and I don't want to hire that expertise when I'm this small and I'm trying to make something work. I don't need the added expense of a full-time resource doing something which is seasonal or project-based, right? And so partnering with this helps from that perspective. And the same with organizations. There's a few startups we work with, for example, where they need support staff, right? They want to do a delivery service. They want to do some sort of autonomous vehicle delivery, a couple of other things. And they don't need a full team of dedicated people all the time for their support. They operate limited hours, whatever it is. And that's where partnering with an outsourcer, for example, can help you because it's lower cost and gives you expertise in the area you don't. It could be for marketing, it could be for sales, it could be for support, it could be anything really. But don't try to do everything yourself if you don't have that expertise. And even if you do have that expertise, look for opportunities and spaces where it allows you to expand that expertise or that area of opportunity or need in a way that controls cost but gives you great value, right? And so for me, I think as a startup ourselves, we've leveraged relationships. We've leveraged the internet to search for relationships as well. And we've tried to partner with people to help us grow in areas in which we're not traditionally strong or in which we need that particular work or expertise. And vice versa for them.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that. I have to say, every passing minute, I'm learning so much more from you, gentlemen. Thanks. I have a few questions, but for the interest of time, I'm not going to focus on them because, honestly speaking, guys, the two questions we have in the Q&A section are much, much better. So I'm going to go to our upvoted question here by Tit Kian Yap, who's a home developer. And I throw this to the two of you. Maybe you could start first, Cash. In a full remote working setting, how important is it for companies and organizations to ensure that the mental health of their staff is taken care of, and how can they do this?
Okay, so this is a tough question to answer, Abhiraj, right? Especially in a fully remote working setting, and this is something that I think goes beyond the office and workplace, right? I think while companies definitely want to ensure the mental health of their staff, and it's important to them also, right? If your staff is not in the right frame of mind or not, facing some challenges or depression and all that, obviously it's going to affect their work and all that. But I have the view that the company alone may not be able to solve problems like this, right? Especially in a remote working environment. So I can give the standard answers, right? And standard answers are that there should always be a kind of open communication between the staff and the employees. You got to find things to do other than just work, and you got to build relationship. The sad truth is that it's not just the company, right? It's got to go beyond the company. And I think if you're just going to look at work as being the all-encompassing thing in our society, then we end up in situations like this. So while we worry about our staff, we need to also ask ourselves, what are we doing to build a better society, right? What are we doing to build a better society in the sense that if someone is in a life where their only interaction with the world is their work and their workplace, and they are stuck in their house and they have no friends and they have no family, then I would say society has not the company alone, right? So I think And this is another opportunity for people, and it's good to see in the last 1 year a lot of people are doing work in that area, right? We just and you said that rightfully in the beginning. You don't start something just because I want to become a millionaire. You start something because you want to make the world a better place. And I think there's a lot of things that can be done today to make society better. Right? And as people start to do that, they will find that, hey, look, I just started something that actually at the end it ended up becoming a business. It doesn't matter, right? But we have to find ways to get people interacting outside the workplace. And I may sound heartless in this, but I think the employees too got to know that for their mental health, they have to come out beyond the workplace and have friends and have things, which is very hard to do if you don't have, right? If you come to a town and you're alone and you don't have friends, it's something very hard to do. But for their own, they may have to do it. And I also hope that a lot of people, during the pandemic, I made a lot of friends by just going out and walking with people, right? Hiking and stuff like that. So you sometimes have to take the first step out. But yes, companies need to be able to look out for things that they can intervene in. Is your employee performance dropping suddenly, right? Do you find a jovial person no longer being jovial? Then we may intervention. But the intervention may not be at the company level, but to find out, look, can we find ways to connect with his or her family to see whether are there any way to help him, or can we introduce them to some people in that area to find that they so that they can do things other than work, right? And one thing, again, just that there's a lot of food, I also noticed a lot of stuff over the internet during the last 1 year, like mindfulness courses, free, right? Other ways for people to just sit down and talk. Other than that, I see this thing called Clubhouse going on now. Not a fan, not using it at all yet, right? But this kind of things. So take the first step, right? But the company should back up and see what they can do to help out.
Perfect. Thanks for that. So, from my perspective, I absolutely agree. I think there's responsibility on both parties to allow for the ability to disconnect from work, to interact and to lead a semi-normal life in the pandemic, because I don't think there's any normality around. But interaction is key. And we, for example, as a remote organization, know that it's different from an office. An office, you can look around and you can see your physical workmates. You can see your boss, you can see your friends, you can talk to them. In a virtual remote environment, it's very different. You need to build that in. You need to consciously build it in, which is what we've done, for example. But you also need to allow them to have that balance, have that time, find their balance, right? Through, like I said, technology. Don't just rely on guesswork and people promising to do it. Make sure it's clear and easy to do it, right? Enable people, empower them, let them have opportunities for interaction within the organization, and right? And that then helps you at least gain some balance. In terms of mental health, I think as an organization or as a company, making sure that goals and targets and expectations and performance is clearly and constantly visible, not so much reiterated, but visible, allows employees to know where they stand. That's I think critical for mental health. You need to know how you're doing, what you're doing, so that you can improve or you can change, right? Or you can keep doing what you've always been doing. So clear visibility, clear goals, clear metrics, and clear updates of that allow better mental states across the organization, because you're not going to be less stressed per se, but you're going to be stressed about the right things, hopefully, right? Which is pushing yourself, pushing your performance, rather than, I don't know, my boss doesn't seem to like me, I don't know wrong. Those are horrible thoughts. And for managers as well, I don't know what my employees are doing. I don't know whether I'm going to be in this job because I don't know how they're doing. I mean, the metrics seem okay, but I don't know what they're doing. I'm worried, right? Can do without that. Don't allow yourselves to be drawn into that, and use things to help you gain that visibility.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Yeah, mental health is a very important conversation to have, and I think you yes, as Kashminder said, it's a very sort of like challenging space. It's a tough question but thank you guys for your answers, and I suppose to everybody watching out, just look out for the people around. Don't be afraid to have conversations, and for those people who feel a bit alone or a bit not that great, it's okay to reach out. So it's good to connect. So yeah, I'm very aware that we have 4 minutes more before this session ends, and it's been every bit as exciting and educational as I thought it would have been. Actually, maybe a little bit more. So I'm going to cap it off with probably one of the best questions I've actually heard recently. Very intelligent question, this by Geeta Anbalagan, a physiotherapist at Smart Physio. She asks, what about startups that require staff to be there physically? Do you think these startups are better off closing during the pandemic and opening up later when things are better? Or is there a benefit to keep it going and making a loss? I'll throw it out to you. Kashminder, if you could answer this first, please.
Okay, so again, this is a tough one. I want to from two perspectives. One is as a startup, if you're in a business, and I know there's near where I live, there was this person who started a yoga center, right? Rented a space, but you need a space for yoga center, and then, of course the pandemic strike, and then you can't have people coming to your place, right? So if you are physically blocked from doing your business, then I can't see any way out directly from that, right? You can obviously get your bit of rental discounts and all that, but how long can you continue to even pay discounted rental when nobody can come to your space, right? So these are challenges, but again, I think there are ways to overcome that, right? For example, most probably many people I know simply pivoted to, okay, can I come to your place and do stuff for you? Like, can I do one-to-one yoga sessions and those kind of things? So you have to survive back again until the time when things are getting better. That's one area to look at. So in almost any space, yes, there may have been time you have to close or stop and pause, but find ways to it and see what else can be done. That's one answer to that question. The other one is actually to do with staff, right? And people, right? So what about businesses and staff that I need my staff to be there physically, right? So again, do work from home, right? So how do I tackle that issue? And again, I think things are no longer the same. Right? People have seen that working from home has benefits, but if your business requires staff to be there to work physically, things haven't changed a lot in your organization. That's fine, but can your organization change to face the new reality? Like, for example, I strongly believe in places like this. How about realizing that your staff may need some hours off? Right, you may need some hour off to get things done, and maybe let's say a full 5-day week instead of a full 5-day week. Can you find way to do 4 days and say 1 day I find something for you to do from your home, and so that you have some time to run your errands or whatever. So that, I think, it's a bit liberating for people. So where you can organize that still need people to come back to their offices and all that, can you find ways to do things slightly differently so that people then know that, hey, look, this organization, while I'm still required to come in, I'm still being empowered to say that, okay, I get half a day off extra, right? So those kind of things. So I just some ideas to think about. I don't have the answer to the question, but summarizing again, that's some of the things I would say.
Yep, and I think just to add to that, slightly divergent, because I didn't get to raise it earlier, which is you you've got great ideas, you've got a plan, you may have suffered a setback. Make sure you protect your ideas. Make sure you protect your trademark, your intellectual property, because other people, there are unscrupulous people out there, right? Even some very large companies, right? Protect your ideas, protect your stuff, trademark it, do the necessary. It's an expense up front, but at least your idea, your plan, your business is protected. I think that's just one of the responsible things you must do as an organization if you hope to scale to any size.
Truth. How about your thoughts on Geet question?
It's a tough one. I'm a fully remote organization. It's not even a problem for me. But I agree with what Kashminder said. You need to ruthlessly prioritize. You need to pivot. There's yoga instructors, etc. who've moved to online, virtual. They charge less because it's not quite the same, but at least it allows them to keep going in the meantime, right? Survival for many people, many businesses is the name of the game. Unless you can pivot into a space where you feel a competitive advantage. And if you do, great. If you don't, survive until you get a chance to restart.
Fantastic. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. There's just so much to talk about, really, and yeah, we'll continue this conversation another time. But for now, I'd like to thank you guys for that. I also like to thank our audience today. It ranged between it came up to about, I saw it went 54 people, so that's great. Thank you to all of you. I hope this session has benefited you, and on that note, I'm going to end it and pass it back to the organizers for the next session. So thank you all. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, bye. Thank you.